Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, my next guest has been involved in executive protection for 23 years. He works with ultimate high net worth families and prominent CEOs. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, let's imagine you're the CEO of Exxon. Well, you're something of a target. I mean, you're dealing with, oil and gas, and you're very prominent. You're well known around the world. Well, you might have somebody like my next guest protecting you all throughout the day. Frank Roberson is the CEO and founder of the Black Rhino Group. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, how did you get into this?
It was an accident.
Really?
I got into politics, and it was right after 9/11. And what happened was the governor in the state that I was living in at the time is the only elected official that gets some protection. So we were at an event. I was with a lieutenant governor, a treasurer, and an attorney general. And the governor's security agent came up to me and asked me what I was going to do to protect the other elected officials I was traveling around with. And long story short, next thing you know, I had meetings with a couple of guys that are recommended in the industry that work for the government, and they outlined exactly what I should do. So for 8 years, that's what I did. I put together off-duty officers in positions when we traveled the state and did campaign events or whatever, or official duties when I worked for Congress, and made sure that these folks were protected.
Wow. We were talking just before the show, and we were going through a scenario, and I want you to share that with us. So let's suppose you're working with a billionaire family here in Dallas, and the husband and wife want to go out and have a night at Al Bernays. You actually go scope out the place?
Yeah, it's I started in the advance area. There's different team members on a protection team. If you've watched all the Secret Service stuff going on the last couple of weeks, you probably picked up on that. I built my name on the advanced stuff. So I will soon find out what the event is, where it's at. I'll look at where it's at, look at the overlay of where the streets and that type of thing, and then I will go visit the restaurant. If it's in a venue like, say, Churchill Downs, where I have had to advance 3 Kentucky Derbies to get my client in and out and to a suite, you do the overhead, you look at where your areas that you want to travel in and that kind of thing, but then you have to go on site because aerials, you can't do it by yourself. So you go in there and you develop the relationships with the people that you need to keep everything safe. You know how to get through the kitchen, for instance, at Churchill Downs, from the paddock up to the suite, a side employee elevator, up to the back kitchen, through the hallways, and pop out into the suite. So you miss the 160,000 fans that you would have to normally walk through. So in a restaurant scenario, husband and wife CEO wants to go to dinner. They tell me what restaurant they want. And then I will go, and I'll either the day before or earlier in that day, depending on how busy our schedule is, or if they have me there for the whole day. For instance, the Al Bernays, you used that example earlier when we were talking. I've been there before. I talked to the valet guy. I told him we're going to come in here with a family, and where can I park the vehicle that's easy access to get in and out. By myself, I don't have a separate driver, so I need to have it up close. So I will give the valet guy some extra money to make sure that car is right up front. I'll make sure I go in and find out where we want to sit. For instance, if we have the private room upstairs at the Al Bernays that's not in Highland Park, the other one, there's an upstairs private room with a little bar by it. So if we're using that room, I get with the manager, I go upstairs, I check out how to get in and out, where the exits are, that kind of thing. And then I tell them when we're coming here because they have reservations, and we'll see you here shortly. So I go back, see the family, pick up the family. We drive over there. When we drive up, the valet guy already knows I'm coming, knows the car. He will move the cones for me when I pull up. I'll get out. I'll take the family upstairs, and he will leave the car there because I need to park the car. I want it in where I need it to be. And so he'll move it to the side maybe, but he'll leave it up front. So I'll take the family up to the private room, get them seated, introduce them to the waiter who I've talked to. If there's a sommelier, I worked for a wine family for a few years, and because she was in wine, I made sure the sommelier, I told her, this is Jeff, the sommelier. He's got 15 years in the business, and he's going to be your sommelier for the evening. Our waiter has been here there have been clients that wanted to know who the waiter was, from the manager to whatever. So we do all that, and then I go sit at the bar. I'll order my food. I'll prepay for it in case something comes up, and I'll check in with that waiter that I've talked to earlier because I have a relationship with him, probably have tipped him a little bit. I ask him to let me know when dessert's been ordered. Dessert usually doesn't take that long, so now I know I'm about ready to get going, and we'll make sure the valet guy knows I'll be coming out shortly. If there's room up front, I'll have the car sitting there waiting and ready. Wow. And I'll have the keys in my pocket already.
You know what impresses me most, Frank, is that you have really had to think through every possible scenario.
The individual I sat down with when I first started this was a Secret Service agent, and the first thing he told me, there's two things that I continuously think about in my life, regular life, protection life, whatever. If I can think of it, a bad guy's already thought of it, and to prepare for every eventuality. So when I'm talking to people about situational awareness, when I go do a talk on that, one of the things I tell females, single females especially, or females driving by themselves or with their kids without their husbands or whatever, and they go to a gas station, like say a Quick Trip, I will tell them that, especially if it's at night or it looks unsafe, to park at a gas pump pointed in the direction that you want to leave, and then go into the convenience store and then come back out. Because if something happens there, and I've been at a QT where something's happened, where two guys get in an argument, one guy goes and gets his gun, and everybody's trying to get out, and everybody's jammed up in the parking lot, right? That's why they have armed security at some of the QTs now. So if you're parked at a pump in an area where you know you can get out, you're not dealing with all this mess right here. You can walk all the way around, come back to your car, and exit that gas station without having any issues whatsoever. Right. Not getting stuck in the middle of it, traffic jams, honking, worried, oh my God, my kid's in the car, someone's going to come get us next.
Wow. I think it's fascinating. We're going to pull up the About page from your website. Okay. As we scroll down the About page, there's a lot of pictures. And I want you to kind of talk about what we're looking at.
That's the Lieutenant Governor at the time of Nevada, and she was running for governor. And I was hired to run her statewide campaign. And part of those duties was to make sure she was protected. So I was always there over one of the shoulders. And there we are again on the bottom left. And the one on the right is Frank Sinatra Jr. That picture on the left was a fundraiser that Frank Sinatra Jr. came up and did for us. And there I am over her shoulder again in case something went wrong. That's the last congressman I worked for and protected. I ran his congressional office out in California and protected him when he was in the district, John Doolittle. Great guy. That's just a picture somebody took from a detail I was walking a high-level CEO through during COVID. Through an office, and someone was there taking a picture and noticed, because they knew the client was in the building, and they took a picture of me coming out because I was pointing and having people moved to clear the way out. And then the bottom right is when I was managing the Samsung security at 3 different facilities.
And it's a little different than Secret Service. I mean, I think almost anybody can pick out the Secret Service guy. Yeah, he's the one with the earphone tucking into his sleeve. Yeah. When you're on private protection, you just want to blend.
You do want to blend, and there are times the family I had here in North Dallas, we did add another full-time agent. I hired on another agent to help out, and we did have the earpieces. I was with a family that was under direct threat for 9.5 years, and there were 4 of us on the team, and a 3-car motorcade. When I wasn't advancing, it was a 2-car. And we all had the sunglasses and the earpieces and the communications and all that stuff too. But when you're doing it sole practitioner, when I was with the wine family, she's worth $8 billion or probably a little bit more now. And when we're walking through the streets of London, I've already advanced them all that morning. And then after lunch, we go do our thing. She doesn't know I'm walking. She knows I'm there, but the rest of the public doesn't know that who she is and that I'm with her.
I think it's absolutely fascinating. Obviously, we all watched what happened to former President Trump the other day, and that conversation still continues. So I want to show a piece from ABC News, and then I want to get your reaction. Sure. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Fallout from the assassination attempt on former President Trump. New video from the roof released. The Secret Service asked Trump to stop holding outdoor rallies, and the Secret Service director has resigned. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas starts us off from Washington. Good morning, Pierre.
George, good morning. Our audience is about to see the frantic seconds in the moments after the gunman tried to kill former President Trump. It's all caught on police body cam video. And warning to our family at home, what you're about to see may be disturbing. This morning, new helmet camera video obtained by ABC News showing the moments law enforcement raced to that roof after a sniper killed the gunman who opened fire at a Trump rally. Officers climbing up a ladder. In chilling detail, the video shows an assault-style rifle lying next to the dead body of shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks, a trail of blood seen streaming down that sloped roof. An officer kneels down by the gunman. There appears to be a small device next to the shooter that was not seen earlier. The officer takes out the battery, then pulling out a phone as he checks the gunman's pockets.
A rangefinder. I think it's in the cargo pocket. See all the rangefinder?
Police also seen counting the shell casings.
Looks like what, at least 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8.
At one point, a law enforcement official who appears to be a Secret Service agent and another officer heard discussing the evidence the shooter was believed to have left behind.
This was his bike with the stuff. And our sniper seen him walking away from that, I believe.
This image clearly visible on the phone held by the local officer wearing the helmet cam. The new video comes amid mounting scrutiny aimed at the Secret Service and how it handled the assassination attempt, both before and after. The alleged lack of transparency costing the head of the Secret Service her job. Kim Cheeto, after vowing to stay, telling her workforce she no longer wanted to be, quote, a distraction. And now multiple sources telling ABC News that the Secret Service has asked the Trump campaign to consider not holding outdoor rallies in the wake of the assassination attempt and the heightened threat environment. The FBI director will be on Capitol Hill later this morning, where he will face questions about what took place and is likely to provide an update on what he is calling an extremely dangerous threat environment, Robin.
Thank you, Pierre. Appreciate your reporting.
Wow, and we're still digesting all this, and I'm sure much more information will come out. But your thoughts so far?
Well, I've been, as you can imagine, people that I know and some people that I've worked with or worked for have called and asked what I thought. And because they know that I built my name on advanced work. And at some point, this is my first thought, and when I sit with my wife talking about this, first thought out of my mouth was, why was the perimeter so small? What would typically happen, and I'm not Secret Service, so this is just what I would do. In an advanced situation, you figure out where the target is, where you're going to be, and you do your aerials. And in that situation, you should be figuring out what your perimeter is. So somebody in that room, in my opinion, decided not to include that stuff in the perimeter, the extra buildings and the water tower, not put somebody on the water tower. Somebody made that conscious decision because any advanced team that is trained and has done this for any amount of time is going to automatically look for that water tower and say, okay, that's where we want to. Even if we're short-handed, even if we don't have enough officers or agents or snipers, put one on the water tower, because up on the water tower, you have a clear view of the building where the shooter was, but you also have the clear view of anything else around because it's the highest point in that area. Secret Service, when I've gone to pick up my congressman, when he's flown in with the president, or just to visit the plane with an elected official, the perimeters are huge for a sitting president. And I've worked around former presidents in their detail, and it's a much smaller perimeter, but they still don't overlook something like that. So I don't know who made the decision not to include the whole perimeter, But from my information that I was told, it should have been a minimum of 500 yards. And that shooter was within 140 yards. And the fact that he flew the drone for a couple hours before that and took video, the rangefinder thing. The thing that I teach in my situational awareness classes of people to find the pre-event indicators. Before any event like that, like a shooting like this, you can point out 3 pre-event indicators. The bicycle sitting there by itself, you can't find the guy. You got him flying a drone that they know he flew a drone 2 hours before. They know he was a person of interest because he had the rangefinder ahead of time. So those are at least 3 pre-event indicators to say, we got something going on here. Let's hold off on putting him out on the stage for a little bit and see what happens when we find this guy, because it's a small area, so they wouldn't have had that big a deal finding him.
And I think everybody agrees, no matter what your politics are, thank God there was not an assassination. Correct. How has it changed the way we protect our presidents and our former presidents?
Well, I think the day after, from what I've heard, RFK Jr. finally has his security, and Trump's security has been increased. And like the video you just saw, they're asking him to do indoor rallies. I guess he did one yesterday from what I read. It's going to be a heightened sense now because you look at what happened yesterday when Israel's prime minister was here. What happened outside the buildings there, the federal buildings there around the Capitol. It's a volatile, split world right now. Some places you can't go to the grocery store. You know, I used to have to go to the grocery store with a family I protected because there were people that were following people from the grocery store back to their homes. I mean, it's just one of those things that the world's gotten so polarized one way or the other that there's no civility anymore. Even back when I was working with the politicians, you know, you could sit down with a Democrat or Republican, or they both can sit down and have conversations about policy. All of a sudden it became about the hate. And that affects the security business because you don't know what threats are real. Somebody asked me, well, these people were pointing out that somebody was up on that roof and the police didn't do anything. Well, the police knew that one of their guys was supposed to be on the roof. And you heard today that he didn't go up on the roof because it was too hot. But if you're a police officer trying to do all this stuff, you got all these things going on, and someone says, oh, there's a gunman up on the roof over there, and you know that one of your guys is supposed to be up there, it's reasonable to think that under everything going on, that's one of our guys. That's no big deal.
Right.
Because no one really actually thinks that someone's going to do that. But that's the thing that, remember, the thing that I was told when I first started, you got to plan for everything, every possibility. And if you can think about it, the bad guys already thought about it. So I think it should have been checked and rechecked. If there was a perimeter in place, all that other stuff is avoided. He wouldn't have gotten into the area. He wouldn't have been able to fly the drone, do the range find. All the stuff that happened after the perimeter was set was based on that decision of setting that perimeter.
Yes. We're almost out of time, Frank. So final thoughts. What do you want to leave people with?
Well, it's not a world where you have to be worried to go outside so much, but there are situations that can happen. And the reason people hire people like me that have the experience that I have is because when something happens, you don't know if someone you're at dinner with is a threat or has been threatened. You know, you go to a fancy dinner where W goes to. Mm-hmm. He's got constant threats. So if something happens at a dinner there, the police are not going to go get you, Jeff. They're not there if something happens to go get you out of the situation. That's my job, is to get you. You hired me to protect you. So if something happens at a grocery store, something happens wherever, my job is to get you out. People think they're going to be safe because there's going to be police there. Police, their job is reactive to what the situation is, and they're going to go take that threat down. But what are you going to do when everybody's stampeding out? You're going to know the right ways to go so you don't get injured and you don't get hurt. That's my job.
Wow. Frank, I could listen to you for hours. Thanks. We're going to end with his website, and that's right there on the screen. So go ahead and take notes and reach out to Frank for all your protection needs. And just, Frank, I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.